Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Ashank Desai Centre for Leadership and Organization Development, it is my pleasure to invite all of you, people who have joined us in the room and also people who have joined us over Zoom for this panel discussion on leading for social impact, skill sets, opportunities, and career options. Well, it is said that what you leave behind is not what is engraved in the stone monuments. It is actually weaved in the lives you touch. As leaders, as individuals of society, it becomes extremely important as we go through our daily routines, as we go through our jobs, as we go through our vocation, it becomes important to think about how do we create an impact in the lives of people, in the lives of individuals who belong to our community. It is our pleasure at the Ashank Desai Centre, it is a pleasure to have three extremely outstanding individuals. So we have Mr. Anshu Gupta from Gunj. We have all heard, participated in various drives. So I'm sure we don't need any introduction, but I will do that in a while. We have Mr. Neeraj Lal, who heads the corporate social responsibility function for entire Arvind. And we have Mr. Vikram Tandon. He is on the way. He will be joining us in about 5-10 minutes in a while. He heads the HR for Adani. So we have three distinguished individuals spanning three different profiles who would be talking to us. So we have a person who has created a mark in the social sector. We have an individual who's heading the corporate social responsibility function, and also an individual who heads the HR of a very, very large and significant organization. How do we create impact? How do we create an impact that is really important for the society? What kind of options exist for us as management graduates? And I'm sure our distinguished speakers would talk about it. What kind of skill sets are required? How do we prepare ourselves for careers in this domain? So we will listen to their life experiences, what kind of shaped their outlook for the paths and the career options that they chose. It is something that is important for each one of us. How do we shape our careers? How do we pace our careers, and so on? So we have Mr. Vikram Tandon, who heads the HR for the Adani Group. So without further ado, I'm sure you are all very interested to hear and listen to all three of these distinguished speakers. What we'll do is we'll invite each one of these gentlemen to give their opening comments, and then we'll have a discussion. We'll get into a conversation, ask them some easy and some tough questions, and we'll kind of learn from their experiences. So I would invite our first speaker, Mr. Anshu Gupta, popularly known as the Clothing Man, and he is the recipient of the 2015 Ramon Magsaysay Award. He founded Gunj with a mission to highlight some basic but ignored needs of people on the development agenda, using clothing as a metaphor. Anshul did double diplomas in journalism and advertising and PR, apart from doing a master's in economics, and started off as a freelance journalist. He left a corporate communication job in 1998 and initiated Gunj. Under his leadership, Gunj has taken immense growth of turning urban waste into a tool to trigger large-scale work on various rural development issues. He is also an Ashoka and Schwab Fellow for Entrepreneurship, and is creatively and flexibly matching and seamlessly weaving urban surplus into the changing priorities and realities of rural marginalized communities. So it is a pleasure to have Anshu with us. Your opening, yes, please. Your opening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And although I have a small, I think the team just collected 5-6 thoughts. I don't know, some of you know that I do this series called Sochta Hoon on my social media. And I think they just picked up 5-6 thoughts and they sent it to me. So sent it here. So I'll run that also in a minute. But I think what I'll do in the next few minutes is that I'll just tell you who am I, because that's the most important part out here. And how do we relate to these things? Because as just, you just read the profile, and there is nothing about social sector in that. To be honest, in my entire khandan, in my family, it's a typical, very beautiful, honest middle class family. And as I always say, India has various kind of middle class. But for me, in those days, the definition of middle class was a family where your own house is made at the fag end of your career, next to the retirement or post-retirement. That was my definition of middle class of those days, that way. So I come from them. They are a hardcore family of engineers, and no background of this. To be honest, 1998, when we started Gunj, we didn't even know that you have to register it. So now when a lot of people come to us and they say whether we should register it as a social enterprise or a business enterprise or Section 8 or society, somehow I don't understand that conversation. I say most important part is your kida, your passion, and the registration is a secondary part. To be honest, we were registered in 1999 because we didn't even know that the registration has to happen, and we just started working when I left my career. So just a couple of slides to give you, this is what I write. So I just put these pictures together and call it सोचता हूँ. तो it says बस चढ़ा ही रहा था एक और चादर मजार पर कि नजर बाहर कांपते एक फकीर पर पड़ गई. और हिंदी आप सब समझते हैं? In any case, you have a translation for that. And why I think the team must have chosen these 5-6 slides, because this also narrates the story. And this also gives a chance to all of us to understand that there are issues, there are non-issues. There are non-issues which are created, there are non-issues which exist, and that needs to be solved. One of the non-issue which we found was the issue of clothing, non-issue of clothing. A lot of people think that we are in the business of collecting and distributing clothes. We don't do that. This is a much deeper, different kind of model and work. But the whole thing which we realize is that you talk about 3 basic needs of humankind. You say roti, kapda, makan, and then you forget kapda. Kapda you remember when a disaster happened. Kapda you remember when you don't need it. So you want a taker of that. So something which is written as basic needs, something which is the first visible sign of poverty, 2, who is cultured, uncultured, educated, uneducated, everything we try to identify with a piece of cloth, unfortunately, has never been a development subject. In our country and in various parts of the world, more people die due to lack of clothing in winters than earthquake or flood. Many of you know the story of Habib Bhai, who used to pick up unclaimed dead bodies, and my encounter in my journalism days, apart from this person in Uttarkashi, that was another story. That how he used to pick up unclaimed dead bodies, and for every dead bodies he was paid 20 rupees and 2 meters of white cloth. And when I was spending time with him early morning till late night on the footpaths of Delhi, because that was new to me, and I had come from Dehradun. Delhi itself was huge. For me, footpath used to be footpath. I never thought that footpath is a place for people to stay, because that is something I had never seen in Dehradun. I didn't know that there are such huge issues of homelessness and all that. And that's where Habib Bhai had said, he said, Jado mein mera dhanda badh jata hai, that in winters my work goes up. And many times I have so much of work that I cannot handle it. And then I realized that 4 or 5 kilometers where he was able to take his rickshaw, he was picking up 10 to 12 dead bodies every 24 hours. And in the summers, it used to be 4 to 5. Right? I used to think that people are dying of, because winters people are dying. But then I realized that if I survive, someone else dies on the road in the same temperature. It is actually not winters. It is actually not cold, but the lack of clothing. Something so grossly. And why I'm, saying all this, because for today we were talking about career opportunities and all this in this thing. That's what I want to tell you, that there are hundreds of non-issues which we all can tackle. There's huge scope for all of us. Imagine the issue or the non-issue of clothing. When you say three basic needs, you say roti, kapda, makan, food, cloth, and shelter. But when you talk about all kind of development goals, all kind of work, it is not even listed as a subject. And the most shocking statement, of course, just to give you the gravity of it, came from his daughter, who said कि जब मुझे ठंड लगती है तो मैं लाश के साथ चिपक कर सो जाती हूँ. When I feel cold, I hug the dead body and sleep. It does not trouble me. It does not turn around. This is also the reality of the world. Arvind Mills वाले दोस्त यहाँ बैठे हैं. Now he understands, clothing का क्या हाल है. And because होता क्या है, देखिए, what happens is that when you say half the world does not get 2 meals a day, with a very narrow thing, we think that people are hungry. So I accept that people are hungry. But let's also understand that someone who is hungry also does not have access to anything else in life. ये नहीं है कि जो भूखा है वो बड़ा अच्छे कपड़े पहन के घूम रहा होगा, एजुकेशन होगा, हेल्थ होगा, नहीं होगा उसके पास. बट हमारा वो बिल्कुल जो एक बहुत, the way we think, we say the person is hungry. That's it. Now, I'll not, because the time, we want to spend more time in Q&A and all. But ये जो है, what you see here is actually is a midday meal of 400 kids. And this picture I can bring from any part of the country, not limited to, because जैसी कोई बात होती है ना, when you see something bad, you say ये बिहार का होगा, ये झारखंड का होगा. That's a huge myth, fine? In this country, more people commit suicide, especially farmers from the so-called prosperous states of Andhra, Telangana or Maharashtra. So these are myths. वो जो आपको, what Google is teaching you is a very selective reading. Libraries were better because we used to read both the parts. Google says sad farmer, problems in farming. So the Google gives you 1,000, things like that. But my question is that all of us have this opportunity to correct this. Right? If we are providing this food to millions of kids, we cannot think of a bright future. And this is basically made with the help of our money. We pay taxes, that's how this midday meal is made. And I'm just giving you some, absolutely different glimpses. Now, this is the most important slide for all of us, and I'll talk about it later also. It says, ये तो मुझ पर है, मैं इसे कर्जा मानता हूँ, या मैंने इसे हक का नाम दे दिया. 1998, I was leaving Scots. Binakshi, my wife, had joined BBC that time. And we decided that we will now, survive, grow on one salary. She will earn and I'll spend. And that's how the relationship became very beautiful for years, because I just kept spending, she kept earning. But 1998, I had done a small calculation, and I said the institution where I studied, I did my journalism and then advertising and PR in IIMC, in Institute of Mass Communication. I said I paid a few thousand rupees that time. And I said that ideally that fees should have been maybe 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees, because the kind of facility, faculty, everything we had. And I asked myself and my honest middle class family that if that fees was even 30,000 rupees, 25,000 rupees, was it possible for me to pay or the family to pay? The answer obviously was no. That was the day when I realized that I am the biggest product of subsidy of the country. Every single person, all of you sitting here, fine. Every single person who has ever gone to a government school, government college, IIM, IITs, have eaten up the subsidy, including the people who have studied in the private schools, because the land was given at a very subsidized cost so that the education can become affordable. Right? You can still afford IIM here, and you pay almost 4 times when you go out of the country. Even this is a subsidy. And please remember, if you see the last 2 years, and when you saw those millions of people walking, subsidy never comes from the rich people. Subsidy comes from the farmers, from the laborers of this country. So I don't believe in giving back. I always feel that it's all of us who need to pay back. I'm not saying that we should not have a good life, enjoy life as much as possible, because you're here and you have to make your life. But do remember that it's like a karja on us. we need to pay back. ये मेरा बहुत फेवरेट है, IIMA में जरूर आके चलाता हूँ इसको कि अगर बिजनेस प्लान बनाने से देश बदल सकता तो बिजनेस वालों ने बदल दिया होता. Because आजकल we are also sick and tired of this B plan competitions and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a slide to tell you that not one community can do anything. All of us need to become a stakeholder. Whatever we are doing in different sectors, in different roles, we need to do our role in a much bigger, deeper way to change this country. Right? So there is a misconception that only business changes. मतलब मुझे कई बार, मैं आगे बात करूंगा, मुझे बहुत बार गुस्सा आता है कि हमसे कोई ऐसे बात कैसे कर लेता है just because we are in the social sector, and we'll talk about it later. This is my last slide. I always feel that logic is largely for not doing something. People who want to do something do not look for a logic. They just do it because वो कीड़ा है, वो passion है, आपको करना है. You will not wait for a business plan to happen, because business plan on one side of your Excel sheet will show you the amount which me and you, largely people coming from middle class families, cannot even imagine. So that actually kills your dream. बहुत किस्मत वाले होते हैं जिनके सपने होते हैं, बहुत किस्मत वाले होते हैं जो सपने पे काम कर सकें, और बहुत किस्मत वाले होते हैं जिनके सपने right direction में हो. So my simple thing is that I'm not talking about Goonj right now. My simple thing is that I think all of us can come in that category of the people where we can work on our dream, because ultimately at the end of the day, zindagi ek hi mili hai. Thank you. I'll talk later.
Thank you, Anshu, for these very important, I think, slides and very important messages that were there in the slide. I'm sure we'll have lots of things to talk about. I would now invite Neeraj ji. Neeraj Kumar Lal is the group head of corporate social responsibility, Arvind Limited. He brings 2.5 decades of experience in corporate social responsibility. His domain includes health, education, skill development, and slum networking. He is a member of CII National Committee on CSR and convener of CII Gujarat State Panel for CSR and Social Inclusiveness. Mr. Lal has facilitated collaborative relationships and partnerships between the industry, academia, international development agencies, and consulting organizations for greater productivity and holistic development. The slum networking project that is being driven by the CSR arm of Arvind Limited has been selected among 100 best global practices by United Nations Center for Human Settlements, UNCHS. It is a pleasure to have Mr. Lal. Your comments, please, on the topic.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to all of you. It's an absolute pleasure talking to the young people. I wanted to speak something else, but what Anshu has spoken has kind of put another kida. Let me talk about myself. Absolutely similar story. He comes from a middle-class family and everyone engineers. I also come from a middle-class family where everyone was a teacher, both my parents. And when we made our first house in Ranchi, after my father retired, because before that you couldn't make anything, he put all his money in my hand and said that build what you want. And I was in class 12th or first year of graduation. So I built a wonderful palace, everything under the sky that I could think of, and the old man didn't blink an eyelid. And now I realize that I was such a fool that because of showing it to others, I had put so much of money, I could have made 3 houses out of it. However, that journey increased a little, we got settled. And in a family gathering, all our cars were lying outside on road. And one of my cousins said to my mother कि चाची आपने गैरेज क्यों नहीं बनवाया? And my mother said कि बेटा कभी सोचा ही नहीं था कि गाड़ी होगी. So this is a story of people in this country who were postgraduates in that time, who were teaching all their lives, who had students from all strata of the society, and half of my father's tuition class will be of such people who would not pay, who would not be able to pay, and he would welcome them. But all those people, somebody would supply water to the houses, somebody would supply some kirana to the houses, somebody will sell vegetable to the houses. So at the end of the day, they will bring something. They'll say, Master Sahab, aapke ghar mein aaj pani main de deta hu. So point I'm trying to make is, and we were discussing in the morning, it had not been the reason for our poverty that we cannot think. We always have a group like you. We always had a group like you. But somehow it happened that a group like you never thought that it is important. I am so happy today. And when Vishalji told me that we have to talk about social impact, career opportunities, skill sets, I said this is the forum that I should be talking to. We have worked, my large experience is in urban area. We have a variety of trust societies which work in the rural areas. Directly have worked in urban areas, slums. Do you, I'll tell you, in Ahmedabad, there are close to 500 municipal schools and about 1.3 lakh children go to those municipal schools. In India, about 99%, over 99% enrollment is there in municipal school. Any idea how many complete schooling? By schooling, I mean class 12th. Huh? About 15%. Okay. Now we are on a global bandwagon. What do you think will be the future of remaining 85%? And even I'm saying that all those 15, 20%, 25%, whatever, this number is going to do well in life. Difficult to imagine, but going to do well in life. What will happen to those 85%? Difficult, no? There would be one Dhirubhai Ambani. But for lesser mortals like us, you have to actually complete schooling, right? Okay. And that's where after about 7-8 years of my initial work with Arvind CSR, we were interacting with Municipal School Board, and in 2007-8, this 15% was about 6%. And I said that this cannot continue. We have worked on variety of things. When we start discussing, we'll come to that. But the point is helping somebody for 8 to 12 years. Why are you sitting all in this classroom? Simple reason is that you passed class 12th, right? And beyond that, your parents ensured that you had to study, you had to go to the higher study, you have to go into best of the institutions, and you had the ability to get into the best of the institution. However, even the access is not there to the majority of the people. Next one, and it is very, very, very easy. The easiest thing that one can do, we just handhold a guy before and after school hour for 8 to 12 years. And then they start making 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 rupees a month. And in those 7-8 years, what happens? That from absolutely lower middle class, they jump out to upper class, because then they get married and both husband and wife starts earning. There had been tremendous numbers and case studies and all that. Why I told you this story is that when I get into expanding it to say these 1 lakh children, it's very difficult to reach out to them, and it's very difficult to get people who think differently. Thinking differently is something that is not being taught in Indian schools. Where do so-called social sector people come from? They come from social work, right? And when they come from social work, it's the mindset is that आप भलाई करने जा रहे हो, ठीक है? भलाई is a very good thing. What Anshu spoke about, भलाई हो रहा है, लेकिन how are you doing the same thing over and over again, or you are doing the same thing differently? And doing things differently is something that this class, I believe, is being taught day in and day out. Your title was very, of the talk was very, and you just stop me if I'm crossing my time. Title was very fascinating. Leading for social impact, opportunities and career options, and then added the skill sets. When I started my career, and it was under Dr. V.L. Mote, who has set up, who was the founding members of IIMA Ahmedabad. So he told me one thing. If you are liking what you do and you are making your livelihood, consider yourself lucky. And I consider myself very lucky that I have been doing it for over 2.5 decades. When you talk about making these things happen at variety of levels, leading social impact is a very, very strong and a very catchy slogan, provided if we have defined what the social change is. To me, social change means that it is transformative and it is happening within a given period of time. Because if it is not happening within a period, and it is lasting, of course, if it is not happening within a given period of time, your cost goes so high that then managing it becomes difficult. So leading a social change, what does it require? To me, it requires a conviction and it requires passion, and which all of us have that passion, provided our passion can test the time frame. If we can continue doing something, bringing social change doesn't require exceptional intelligence. Bringing social change requires continuum. Are we continuing to do something? And if we all can do, means people sitting in this room, if you just decide that, yes, we have to contribute, this can happen. Coming to the opportunity, and we will talk about career options and other things. Opportunity. We are discussing this in IIMA Ahmedabad. Suddenly CSR has become a buzzword for last 7-8 years because it was mandated. As a CSR professional, I am very happy that it has become a buzzword. But wherever I go, people talk to me as if CSR will change India, the landscape of India. All problems, everything can be solved by CSR. Very few people know that less than 1% of the complete India's social sector outlay comes from CSR. It's 100% comes from state and central government. So when I talk about opportunities are at all levels. And these days, there are huge amount of social enterprises. I hope few people are here from the social enterprise, setting up their social enterprise. So this whole thing put together, 70% of our population lives in rural area. 93% of the land is in rural area. Government is upgrading all infrastructure because it is beneficial for everybody, but reaching out to people and ensuring that a small geography gets transformed is not something that is happening at a strategic level. So the opportunity is for a strategic leadership, very strong opportunity, and having a strategy that can within a short duration of time transform a smaller geography, because that's a small geography can keep on getting year on year CSR budgets or any budget. If there is an end-to-end strategy, it will happen, and it cannot happen anywhere other than this place. So thank you very much. We will continue.
Introduce you, Vikram. So we'll have Vikram now. Vikram Tandon is a seasoned HR professional with over 3 decades of experience over a range of diverse businesses, geographies, and cultures. Prior to joining Adani, Vikram donned many transformative leadership roles across global brands such as HSBC, American International Group, ANZ, Greenlays, among others. He holds a master's degree in human resources from XLRI and has certifications in leading change management and innovation from Harvard Business School. He is the past president of the NHRD Network Mumbai chapter and has been a recipient of Gnosis Excellence Award from XLRI. So we have an HR professional also talking to us about leading for social impact. Vikram.
So first of all, my apologies for coming late. When you work for a promoter and he says, I am in a meeting, so everybody is in a meeting, and that happens. Number two, thank you so much. It is an honor to be here and humbled by Anshu and Neeraj, because I'm not from the same league at all. Though my dad also made his apartment and a board very close to retirement. So I'm stuck by the common trait, but so is middle class. It leaves a distinct mark of values and that stay with you in so many small actions. And it is not the big actions, but that becomes a culture of a home. And I think that's what is commonly known as middle class values of offering water when somebody rings a bell, which many people forget. I must confess, compared to these two luminaries who have done a lot personally in creating impact in the social sector, I have not done that. Yet at HSBC, I was first time in my career very closely involved in trying to get social impact happen, because being a foreign bank, it had access to, and a very profitable foreign bank, it had access to a lot of funds which needed to be deployed. But the single biggest impediment was finding agencies which were credible and consistent in the change that they claimed to make. Sadly, the numbers were few and far between, and I got involved in trying to assess the people who were running those agencies. Many of them were, they didn't see longevity. They would do something and stop. Some at the other end of the spectrum would make money out of it and not really deliver the committed promise. And as a result of that, while HSBC did do I think excellent work in water conservation and then skill building. But in every year, as a board member of the team, we were never able to fully spend the money because we just couldn't find the agencies. Coming to Adani's has been a huge learning for me. This is the first time I have ever worked for a promoter. I have been working with MNCs 5 days a week. This is the first time I worked on a Saturday, full day, etc. But what struck me was the humility and the need to drive change of the Adani family, which is often underreported or never reported and never publicized because they are quite media shy and against showing what they do. They don't even, I don't even think it's in part of the company's CSR budget. But the Adani Foundation is doing great work in changing livelihoods of people. And this is not about trying to tell you about what Adani Foundation does, but I'd like to share a quick anecdote about how they are wanting to bring in social change through employability. So we are making a power plant in a place called Godda. And the purpose of this power plant is really as part of the India-Bangladesh treaty. The objective is to create uninterrupted power to that extent for Bangladesh. And it has about a 20 or a 25-year agreement. And making a power plant, I mean, it's a massive setup. And the first thing I learned at Adani was that they are very, very particular about uplifting people locally, including providing employment. And initially we started off by employing all the men because there's a lot of heavy lifting that needs to be done. And then came, what do we do with the women over there? Because there isn't much of a job that you can give them in a construction site at a power plant. And the Adani Foundation came in and started teaching these women how to stitch. And then was, how do we get them to use what we taught them? And they started stitching uniforms for a very large number of laborers on the site. And slowly the contractors started buying these uniforms because they were quickly available. That was the number one thing. And over a period of time, to cut it short, these people made about 12 to 14 crores of rupees in revenue, about 1,200 women. And the change it brought was that earlier these women folk used to bring lunch to their husbands at the site, and the husband would earn a daily wage essentially, right, which is about 900 rupees a day. And the entire team is not employed every day. Sometimes there are people who don't find employment. But after 12 months, this whole uniform thing became so well known as an example of social change that in the second year, and the project is about 3 years, they started running short of people to make these uniforms. And the women folks would earn and are earning currently between 45 to 80,000 rupees a month. And the social change, interestingly, became husbands stopped coming to our sites because they had to carry lunch for their wives. And while it may bring a smile on people's faces, we realized that it created employability for life. Again, both the gentlemen, earlier speakers, would have seen a number of schools that companies' CSR arms create. For whatever reason, I had not been to one. And in Ahmedabad, I went to the Adani Vidya Mandir and go there regularly now just to speak with very young children. Again, you are so right. There are so many dropouts, in spite of the fact that students are picked up from their residence, brought to the school, given full tuition, meals, and delivered back. But somehow the social setup at people's home is so fragile that they are not able to even cope without that individual, in spite of the fact that they know that the individual is going through good change. Now coming to careers, and that's the area that I get involved in. As a person who is in a profession that can help the Adani Foundation, I'm called upon often to say, how can we hire people who can build schools, build hospitals, and create platforms for driving social change through creating employability. That's what we are focusing on. And I must say, there is a huge paucity of people who are trained. It's not lack of people wanting to join the sector, but the whole vocational training around how to do that seems to be a bigger gap than the supply of people with attitude and wanting to do it. So the next challenge for us is now to create platforms where we could bring in people and speak of basic medical skills to come into hospitals, and basic teaching skills, not curriculum, but how to partner a young person who will become an adult. That the how to do it seems to be a gap. And if there is any aspiration to contribute to that sector, then I think, while I think Neeraj said it's only 1% that the private sector contributes, that 1% too creates a huge platform, because the government may not let you in because of their own frameworks, but the private sector seems really deprived of a supply of people. And I'm not talking of long careers, even short 90-day, 180-day, 1 year sabbaticals or internships is good enough to bring you at close quarters with a very different generation of people. I mean, middle class is quite a misnomer, actually. We are, we are living in a land, complete luxury. And I'm not trying to preach you, but if there is any, desire to build social change, then there is huge opportunity. I'll just leave it at that. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity and good to speak.
So thank you, all of you. I would start with the first question, and then maybe we'll take it forward. So I'll start with Anshu and Neeraj, both of you. So both of you talked about middle class and making those transitions. Anshu, you made a transition, and Neeraj, you started off with in this CSR and this career. So can you talk us through some of the trade-offs, some of the questions one has when people are deciding on to this kind of maybe not a business kind of a career, but a business but social kind of a career track and career options, and how does one make those choices? What are some of the things that goes on, and what would be your advice to people around if somebody has to take this as a career? And
When I started, it was never a career. But it was all about, I didn't know what to do, but I was certainly very sure what not to do. And that made life much easier. I was that time the only opportunity was to get into a government job. And that is what I didn't want to do. So went for my post-graduation and things started happening. I said, I'm lucky that I landed at Arvind where they were doing a lot of work and started getting into it. But presently, when you look at what needs to be understood, there is one thing that is common in anyone who wants to be in this sector. And that thing is passion. How will you judge that passion initially? You don't know whether you are very passionate about X thing or Y thing. And the simple formula is that, do you like what you are doing? And your liking might keep on changing. It needs to be tested against time. But while you are into your academic career, if you have tried 3-4 things with not-for-profits, you would know whether you are enjoying it or you are not enjoying it. And if you are enjoying it, then getting into it is going to be very rewarding. I can tell you with experience that I don't take any sleeping pill. I sleep very nicely.
Few points, out here. First is a complete misconception, wrong perception about the social sector. Okay, I think it's very, very easy to abuse social sector, especially by the people who have never practiced, who have never spent their days and nights in the villages without wearing a hat. I come from a different family, fine. My family was a family of engineers. People tell me that my last generation has about 20-22 pass outs of IIT Roorkee. It's a family of Uttarakhand and now Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh, that way. And I was the eldest in this family. One sister, elder to me, who studied and all that, and didn't go for a professional thing. And I went for the professional thing. And I chose this path. I didn't enter in the social sector because I didn't know there is something called social sector. But now has been 24 years. We are also a team of almost about 1,500 people as an organization now. We work with a few hundred organizations. I mean, that's one of the reasons for the growth across the country. I would say this is one of the most beautiful sector. Fine. It has meaning. It is one of the best resource management institution because we do not have luxury of taking loans from the banks. We do not have luxury to become NPA at the cost of people's money if we fail. We have very, very limited resources when we operate in this sector, right? We are in the, we deal with the grief of people. We don't look for happy people to sell a cold drink. We look for people who are in grief, which is very complicated work. All of us must have experienced that in the last 2 years, that how complicated it is to handle grief of people next door in your own family. These 2 years, if we take as learning, right? It is also run by the most professional people. Fine. Some bad apples, like any other sector, will be there always. Right? दूध वाला ईमानदार भी होगा, दूध वाला पानी मिला के भी बेचेगा. And every single sector, वो मिठाई वाला भी होगा, वो corporate भी होगा, वो bank भी होगा. But I feel very sad when the social sector is singled out. When people come and try to teach us ethics and efficiency and professionalism, Ahmedabad, fine, you're sitting here, go to Ilaben, that's Seva, right? Go next door, just next state, and go to Baba Amte. Do you think these guys were not professional? Do you think these guys have grown so well, so big in the toughest moment because they were unprofessional? These are new buzzwords. It gives you a chance to innovate as much as possible. It gives you a chance to see the problems through your naked eyes and find solutions within. People who carry solutions from the cities never and go and think that they can solve the problems of villages. That doesn't happen, and maybe that is one of the biggest failure of the larger world. That despite having so much of resources, so much of now CSR money, earlier government money, if we are not able to solve certain problem, there is something wrong. As we were just talking, over a cup, tea just before coming here, and that is the same thing I was telling them, that farmers who have come out with 7,000-8,000 different varieties of rice are called unskilled. And me and you give a 10 minutes lecture on farming, we are skilled. Bring that person, make that person electrician, plumber with a week's training anywhere in urban institute, start calling them skilled. Arey, that person is skilled. दो आम की कलम जोड़ के तीसरा आम बना देता है, वो innovation नहीं है क्या? Is that not an innovation? That is what you see yourself when you come to this sector. As Neeraj said, the most beautiful part, you handle grief whole day, but you still sleep with some satisfaction because you have done something, and you also have enough for tomorrow to do. You cannot claim that you will solve the problems, but whatever you're doing a meaningful job. Also, please understand, ये बड़ा एक हमारे यहाँ बड़े some jokers come to our centers to visit. We have those big centers where the processing of material happen and all. And many times they ask some silly questions. I'll tell you, that's why I call them joker. Salary मिलती है? ये क्या सवाल है भाई? Salary नहीं मिलेगी? मिलती है तो कितनी मिलती है? हमने आपसे पूछी कितनी मिलती है? How can you ask anyone from my team who gives you a right? So I was, giving a talk in one of the leading software company in Bangalore a few years back. And after this entire session, standing ovation, whatever happens, this guy says, "Ki sir, bas mujhe ek baat puchni hai aapse. I need to ask one thing." I said, "Tell me." He says, "Wo aapka to your model is barter model. People work, then they get close, all that kind of thing. So jo aapki team hai, do they also get close or they get money?" So I just asked him a very simple thing. I said, "Tum pure saal software karte ho. Do you get software every month or you get money?" And he had no answer. So social sector does not mean you can't have a boyfriend, you can't have a girlfriend, शादी नहीं होगी. वो बड़े misconception समाज में घूम रहे हैं. It's a beautiful thing. You should not get into because you are in compulsion to do it, but by choice. It's the most innovative field. It gives you a chance to see the world. It gives you a chance to see the country from completely different eyes, different lenses. You don't have those loaded lenses because आप जब किसी disaster में जाते हो ना, when you go and you don't know how to swim, और उसके बाद भी because आपका कीड़ा है, you are the first person to go in the floods and all that. That is something which always tells you that the people who have more actually lose more. That's one of the biggest leveler. आप जो मर्जी लेके चले जाओ, आपको लगता है हुआ क्या, किसके महल है, जिसके पास महल थे. So that's what I'm saying, that it gives you completely different lenses and very in-depth knowledge and enough to survive and live a good life. Fine. After a certain point, आपकी जिंदगी में you only need one dining table maximum. दूसरा जो कमाओगे वो उस डाइनिंग टेबल को बदलने के लिए कमाओगे. मैंने नहीं बदली पिछले 25 साल से, तो I still live in a beautiful house. I still wear a Levi's jeans. आप में से जब हम स्टूडेंट थे, हम सब सेल पे जाते थे. मैं भी सेल पे जाता हूँ, सेल पे खरीदता हूँ. That is it, nothing else. But it gives you a good life, for sure. I'll stop.
So I just want to add that it's a question of what is your purpose? चाहते क्या हो? In the context of your ecosystem, relatives, cousins, parents, batchmates, okay? Because फिर मिर्ची लग सकती है बाद में, envy हो सकती है. So I feel you have absolutely nothing to lose, and it is not for the faint-hearted. So unless you have a strong framework of personal conviction, self-belief, purpose, it may challenge you later. Number two, as companies grow, this is the golden age of India just starting. Okay. definitely industry, consumption, urbanization, rural urbanization or modernization, etc., raising income levels will create massive opportunity in the sector in the future. And there is a huge gap today of commitment and quality people. So employability is not going to be a problem. But again, I say, choose what you want to do. If there is conviction, I think it is it's almost the tipping point where companies were forced to do something. And now there are so many people, of younger ages who want to do it. It is a choice that they are making, and it will really change India.
So on this point, Vikram, you did mention that there is a problem of the right skills and people coming in with the right set of. So your experience of looking at professionals, management students, what would be your advice to people as to how should they pace their careers, or what kind of skill sets or mindsets, or how does one prepare oneself for getting into a stream like this? Or is there any advice on the employability part of skill set development part?
Sure. So I would say, though, both of them will be able to answer better on the skills required, but I just want to say that can somebody make a commitment to try this for 6 to 12 months as a beginning?
The internship part.
An internship or going and working with the sector. See, it's a misnomer. In a 40, 50-year career that all of us will have, maybe हम लोगों का 40 होगा, आप लोगों का 50 होगा, because you will live longer and you will be healthier, because when something goes wrong, they'll print a new liver or a kidney and put it in, and your life gets extended, but you have to pay for it, right? Because you have to pay for those extra years. So in a 40, 50-year career, 1 or 2 years here or there, I mean, who counts? We would have all three interviewed people. Have you ever asked which year you passed out or aapne beech mein kya kiya? It doesn't matter. So in so many countries, there is this military service, and those countries literally have the discipline in their overall culture of standing in a line, of doing things the right way. Similarly, if you are willing to get into the sector, there are enough opportunities to intern and at least start. Our challenge is today, if we want to open 250 schools, we thought we will be able to go and hire for 50. Actually, that is a real problem. And hire really means in the local catchment area. Otherwise, there are many other challenges when you try and set these things up. So I believe first is trying something out. And then I think at least institutions like ours are now saying, okay, we want to put together a basic curriculum and we will help you get there. So that will be my input.
तो मेरा ये मानना है कि education और profession are two different things. It's not important कि आपका profession वही हो जो आपकी education है, but passion and profession are two very important आपस में related things, because you have just got one life, and eventually we all evolve, eventually we find, but we have to be absolutely open to experiments. मतलब मैं अपने को जब देखता हूँ, when I see myself, I started as a freelance copywriter or a freelance journalist, and then 3 years with the government, public sector, Power Grid Corporation of India, and then escorts, right? So मुझे लगता है कि last 24 years में whatever I've learned, and I always call village is my university, that's an absolutely amazing thing. And to be honest, खुद को भी आपको लगता है कि अरे यार ये भी potential था क्या आपका, ये तो पता नहीं था, because उस समय PPT बनाते बनाते ये तो दिखता नहीं था कि this is also your, this is also your potential. Or you can actually innovate in this entire, now people say supply chain management, community building, whole lot of things people talk about. अलग अलग लोग अलग अलग एंगल से देख के जाते हैं हमारे काम को या उसको, तो बड़ा मजा आता है कि अच्छा ये भी है। मतलब कोई आके कहता है 6 सिग्मा, हम कहते हैं अच्छा हमने तो पढ़ा नहीं 6 सिग्मा कभी, बिकॉज़ वी आर नॉट वी नेवर स्टडीड इन दिस, आई स्टडीड इन द मोस्ट ब्यूटीफुल इंस्टीट्यूशन बट आई डिडंट स्टडी 6 सिग्मा, राइट। दूसरा ये कि जो अभी कहा विक्रम ने वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि दिस इज अवर लाइफ। मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट जब हम ये कहते हैं कि आप ब्रेक लीजिए 1 साल का, राइट, तो इट इज नॉट अबाउट हेल्पिंग समवन, सपोर्टिंग समवन, इट इज अबाउट रियलाइजिंग योर ओन पोटेंशियल कि मैं हूं कौन। यार यदि मुझे गिटार बजाने में मजा आता है तो मैं गिटार में ही प्रोफेशन क्यों नहीं करूंगा अपना, तो मेरी लाइफ है। all your education will still be helpful, you know, when you create a company around that, your MBA will be helpful, but you need to chase that। मैं 2 चीजें बोलता हूँ, मैं हमेशा ये कहता हूँ कि देखो, you don't need to become social entrepreneur, social activities for the sake of it कि मुझे बनना है, you know। A lot of people come and they ask how do I become social entrepreneur? I said why do you want to become a social entrepreneur? क्यों कीड़ा है ये भाई? 2 चीजें होती हैं, either you are bothered about something, really bothered and you want to work on it, or you are passionate about something। मुझे हमेशा लगता है कि दोनों में से यदि एक भी पकड़ लिया आपने, आपका लाइफ इज इन द राइट डायरेक्शन। बस वो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि या तो कुछ आपको बहुत बॉदर करता हो कि नहीं यार ये पॉलिथीन ही मुझे बॉदर कर रही है, या हाउ कैन म्युनिसिपैलिटी क्लोज द लिटरली द सांस ऑफ द ट्रीज बाय डूइंग दिस, आई नीड टू वर्क ऑन इट। देयर आर 1000 डिफरेंट कॉजेस, 1000 डिफरेंट थिंग्स व्हिच ओनली हम जब भीड़ में जाते हैं हम सबके सामने होता है, बट कोई एक पर्टिकुलर चीज है जो मुझे टारगेट कर रही होती है, that is something which is bothering me, or that is something which is my passion. We just need to follow that. And the most important part, when you go for internship, जैसे हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारे MBA institutions के internship के letters आते हैं, उनमें कोई humility नहीं होती। If you start a letter by saying these are the brightest brain of the country, तो आप ये सवाल उठाते हो कि भाई ये जो 15% लोग ही तो पहुंचे 12 तक, तब हमें 10 साल लग जाते हैं, 6 साल लग जाते हैं कोई एग्जाम क्लियर करने में। 5% और पहुंच गए होते तो मैं जो IIMC 2 बार करके बैठा हूं, मैं 1 बार भी उस लायक नहीं हूं मैं, just because large number of people were not able to enter, right? We cannot call ourselves brightest brain, period. Then the second sentence comes, they will come and help you in making your business plan. तो मैं उनमें वापस लिखता हूं कि भाई 20 साल से हम क्या घास काट रहे हैं। And what makes you think that we need a business plan? नहीं चाहिए। हमारा प्रोफेशनल होने का तरीका बिजनेस प्लान नहीं है, कोई और तरीका है, कोई और प्लान है। Go for these internship and all with a learning mindset, not with a teaching and preaching mindset, just because you come from a good institution, right? आपको वहां लर्निंग करना पड़ेगा। हमारी टीम का एक ही सिंपल मैंडेट है, माय लास्ट पॉइंट, we say if you go from 9 to 6 to a village or to a community, you understand the practical part of it. When you remain there from 6 to 6, you understand the emotional part of it, and what you need is emotion. Practical तो होता रहेगा, वो तो हम वक्त के साथ इवॉल्व होएंगे, सीखते रहेंगे, बट आप इमोशनली कनेक्ट हैं कि नहीं है? यदि आप सुबह डब्बा लेके टॉयलेट जा सकते हैं, यदि आप अपने लिए अलग चादर नहीं मांगते, यदि आप वही खाना खाते हैं जो कम्युनिटी खिला रही है, you're there. That's your learning and that's the relationship. And that's how you're able to do it. हम लोग अभी we work in 27 states. हर तरह की कम्युनिटी है। आज के टाइम में भी बहुत सारे अलग अलग तरह के वहां पे काम होते हैं। It is just because that relationship of staying with people, that is the secret sauce, I would say.
दो एग्जाम्पल देता हूं, just 2 examples of 2 people when we started. One of my friend who was into rural management and was exceptionally bright got the placement from the campus and went to a rural area. Okay. In 1.5 months of working in that area, he came and said that I cannot see myself doing what I am doing for the rest of my life. I will say absolutely brilliant, because he decided he can't do that. He tried and he decided. We talked, discussed. He left that, came to TIS, did his PhD, the very successful HR professional somewhere. Second friend, my batchmate, who was considered the worst in the class. Okay. Didn't get a placement, went to his village, worked, was obviously beaten up badly by relatives, friends, that you spent 2 years and not. But he had realized that water is an issue in his village. And he, in last 25 years, he has built thousands of check dams. And the impact of it is seen in such vast area, everything is green. Now, whom will you call successful? Both are successful. Okay. The fellow continued and he left and continued into something else. So, friends, we have one life. Okay. And I'll catch from what Vikram said. Future में बहुत मिर्ची लग सकती है. Okay. If you are ready, and this is one line that will differentiate. If you are ready, and Vikram said that you try it out 6 months, 1 year, और 50 साल, 60 साल, 70 साल में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है 2 साल किधर निकल जाए. But if you are ready to say that I will not compare myself with my friend of the same class, you are ready to go. But if you think, and I have seen my friends, because we were sitting in the next class of doing rural management and personal management. So the guy would drive a Mercedes and I will say, ki, yaar, maine to nahi chalai. If you think that this is how it's going to be, if you are going to compare, this is not something that you should be there. So my wife was a journalist. And when we first met, I told her very clearly that I can give you a very comfortable life, but I don't promise luxury. And I don't think I need luxury. Okay. So if you are clear on that, you will not compare and are not looking for extreme luxury. This is something that you are fit.
बहुत प्यारा सा छोटा सा parameter है. My parameter is that if you go to any city, any village, and if you don't have to look for a hotel, that's your life, that's your success. तो अभी आज मैं IIM के गेस्ट हाउस में आ गया हूँ, लेकिन अब मेरी मुसीबत है कि मुझे शायद रात को 11 साढ़े 11 बजे निकलना पड़ेगा यहाँ से, because I have no option but to stay with a friend. And that's the beauty of life. मतलब बहुत बार ये होता है कि मेरे और मीनाक्षी, my wife, हमारे पास बहुत लोग आते हैं, मुझे फिल्में बनती हैं, छोटे छोटे कैप्सूल बनते हैं, जैसे कि नहीं आपने बहुत सेक्रीफाइस किया. You know, that's a common statement. The moment you come to the social sector, people say, बहुत सेक्रीफाइस किया. हम उनसे पूछते हैं कि भाई क्या सेक्रीफाइस किया. ठीक है, कोई बहुत बड़े बड़े घर या ग्रेटर कैलाश में घर हमारे ड्रीम में नहीं था. आईफोन से मतलब नहीं है कौन सा मॉडल आ रहा है, बिकॉज हमको एक व्हाट्सएप चाहिए, एक छोटा सा कैमरा चाहिए और मेल चलनी चाहिए उसमें खटाखट. यू नो, दैट्स द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट विच इज ओके. तो आई डोंट नो कौन सा आईफोन का मॉडल आ रहा है. आई एम नॉट अवेयर कि कौन सी गाड़ी आई है और मुझे वही खरीदनी है, बिकॉज that's not my inspiration or that's not my aspiration, right? But the simple beauty is that if 50 of you can call me and listen to me for an hour, उस जमाने में जब आपका नेबर 5 मिनट आपकी नहीं सुनता और आप मेरे ऐसे लोगों को बुला के 2 घंटे सुन लेते हैं, मुझे लाइफ में चाहिए क्या? 10 माइक के पीरियड. तो हमारे सबके अपने अपने एस्पिरेशंस हैं, यू नो, और वो होने चाहिए हर हाल में. सक्सेस का सिर्फ ये पैरामीटर नहीं हो सकता कि बैंक बैलेंस कितना है, क्या है. यदि मतलब हमारे बहुत सारे दोस्त हैं एंड वेरी, बिकॉज कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के भी लोग हैं और बहुत प्यारे लोग हैं, यू नो, उनके पास गुड़गांव के 3 क्लब की मेंबरशिप होगी, मेरे पास एक की भी नहीं है. मेरे पास नहीं है मैं इसलिए नहीं जाता, उनके पास भी टाइम नहीं है इसलिए वो नहीं जाते. बात बराबर है. वो वॉलेट में 3 कार्ड एक्स्ट्रा दिखते हैं, वो मेरे में नहीं दिखते. पर जिस दिन मुझे जाना होगा मैं जा सकता हूँ, मैं दोस्तों के साथ जा सकता हूँ. तो ये हमारे अपने अपने एस्पिरेशंस हैं. और देखिए एक और पॉइंट है, विशाल, सॉरी इफ आई एम टेकिंग एक्स्ट्रा टाइम, क्योंकि ये मेरा सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन है. अभी वी वर टॉकिंग दैट यू नो, लाइक मेनी ऑफ अस, आई आल्सो वेंट थ्रू वेरी टफ फेज कोविड का. उस सीरीज में कुछ चलता रहा. तो मैं तो हर सेशन में जहां भी जा रहा हूँ, अभी कल परसों ही बनारस में था एक सेशन में, मैं लोगों से कोई एक बात बोलता हूँ. I always say that, listen, if you have food in your plate for the dinner, say tonight, if you have a place to go in the morning, say a school, a college, a job, any place, if you went to the hospital and came back in the last 2 years, if you didn't go to the hospital, please consider it your second birth. इसको पुनर्जन्म मानिए. पीरियड. ये कोविड के फेज को भूलिए मत. हम भूल जाते हैं, वर्ल्ड वॉर भी भूल जाते हैं, हम यूक्रेन भी भूल जाएंगे, अफगानिस्तान भी भूल जाएंगे. कोविड के फेज को मत भूलिए, क्योंकि आपके बाजू से, आपके सारे एफर्ट्स के बाद भी आप बचा नहीं पाए अपने किसी दोस्त को, अपने पेरेंट्स को, अपने रिलेशन को. फाइन. और आप भी बाल बाल बच के आ गए. कभी 1 महीने रहे, कभी 1.5 महीने रहे, कभी वेंटिलेटर पे रहे, आप भी बाल बाल बच के आ गए. प्लीज कंसिडर इट सेकंड बार. I always feel that the God has given us a chance. I'm not saying not to live our life. Live your life, enjoy, rum with coke, old monk, whatever you want. Okay? In balance. But it is high time that we understand that it is our second birth, and there's another way of living life is also that we start paying back. We start looking for a much more bigger, deeper, purposeful life. We sit with ourselves for a day or 2 or 3 days and see ki, where do we stand? What do we do? What do I want to do? What makes me happy? Peer pressure tha, MBA में आना था, आ गया. Peer pressure था, engineering करनी थी, कर लिया. Fine, wonderful. But what makes me happy? That's the most important part.
Thank you. So we'll open up if there are any questions from the audience. You can for the वहाँ पीछे, yeah, पीछे. Yeah, go ahead and please introduce yourself and.
Hi, sir. My name is Aditya. I work with a startup called Roha Biotech. We also work with farmers in Andhra Pradesh region, women self-help groups and farmers. So here I encountered an incident very recently when I was working with them a couple of months back. I gathered youth in the village who did their engineering in the university. I told, look, you have XYZ problems in this, and this is a very rich land. Why don't you help back your society? And I told how it will contribute to their deeper self and this kind of thing. So it was a 30 minutes long conversation. Then nearly 80% of the respondents who attended, they told like, yeah, this is all fine. So one thing, who will pay back my education loans? Second thing, who will, my parents are looking to get me married soon. So who will marry someone who has no tagline like Amazonite or ex-Capgemini? So that's why, even though we know there is something that is so important, so we are not able to. I was taken aback. I was not able to convince them to work with me to help their own people. So if you are there in that position, how you are going to deal with it?
Yeah. आप बोलिए, Vikram or.
So I think it's all to do with purpose. Everything else is incidental. People talk of the great resignation हो रहा है, ये वो है. I think it's just that people are they have been pushed to a point, as he said in COVID, where death came at very close quarters. It didn't spare anybody. COVID is a great leveler. Everybody, rich, poor, sabka lag gaya. So I think people have started asking what's their purpose, and when they feel that what they're doing is not aligned to purpose, they're not living for money. So many people are sitting at home for 3 months. First time मैंने देखा अपने करियर में कि नौकरी छोड़ दी है बिना एक अगले जॉब के बारे में सोचे भी, that अभी नौकरी छोड़ी है, I have to think now. I can tell you I've changed 5 jobs in 35 years. I have never left without another job. But that's what people are doing. Because I think somewhere the belief that we will be able to contribute with whatever we have is much stronger today. I mean, all of us probably came from a time of a lot of insecurities. Naukri hoti nahi thi. I remember I finished my college and I couldn't get into any of the IIMs. So my father was, I think it was only IIM ABC only, if I'm not mistaken at that time. And his view was कि भाई अभी तक कुछ result आया नहीं है, rejection भी नहीं आया था, but result नहीं आया कोई भी, तो अब तुम job देखो क्या करना है. And it was a scary thought. But today, job is not a problem at all. It's a guarantee. So to close the point, how would I have done it differently? And it isn't an easy thing.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they can tell you more, but if you can help somebody define the purpose, so linkage is a bit easier. Otherwise, hey, there are different motivators. As he said, किसी को Mercedes चाहिए, club भी चाहिए और card भी चाहिए, तो उसको वो happiness देती है. So you have to see, to me, that's a commonsensical answer. I'm not an expert.
I was making a presentation to Dr. J.J. Irani at CII. And I shared with him the same thing, that only 6% of the population is completing his education. And he said, नीरज हमारी 100 करोड़ population है यार, 6% काफी है. We will feed remaining 100 crores. Okay. My answer is the same. In my last over 2.5 decades, I have never convinced anybody who is not convinced by himself. Okay. So Father Bogart, who had set up XISS, XLRI and XIMA, he used to say that you cannot convince anybody if the person is not readily convinced by himself. And you cannot help anybody if the person is not willing to help himself. So that's my guru mantra. I don't convince anybody, and completely identify with your experience. We have gone in the field, we have talked, and after that, everybody drinks tea, and 100% people have gone. But there had been places where people have come and they have not left us for next 4 hours talking about possibilities. So it is about one experience or the other, but I think there are more positive people than
Actually,
negative.
yeah, the opposite trend is also visible now.
Yeah.
So you just don't have people who say, "Sir, naukri kahan se, paise kahan." What Vikram said, the opposite trend is also beginning, where people are saying, "I don't want the corporate job. Actually, I want this. Does not give me that purpose," and that is a bigger problem to handle as well. When
Yeah.
people leave,
COVID also made you realize na कि तीन t-shirt बहुत है.
yeah.
You know, your actual need, you realize कि यार happiness is in this also. मतलब इतना नहीं चाहिए. So I understand your concern of education loan and all that. That is absolutely true. But it is not the case that cannot be tackled. Fine. Go to the last slide जो मैंने इसीलिए वो दिखाई थी कि logic जो है, logic is for people who don't want to do it. You know, how can you come and say कि I am not doing it because my parents do not agree? As if last 23 years you listen to your parents only. As if you want to get married to your girlfriend or boyfriend, you will listen to the parent. You will not run away. As if, you know. These are all just logics, I always feel. I mean, every single person who has gone through such kind of journey, it's not an easy journey. Today things look different, you know, because you see something established. But right from the day one, when that person must be struggling with the family, with all kind of social norm, highly qualified and doing something different, you know, type of thing, to selling his or her own household stuff to run the institution. All these things really happen in the life of people. But these are the people who believe in themselves, who believe in those ideas, who have those real genuine kidas. And that's why they operate. They will never come back and say, मेरे loan का क्या होगा? अब जो होगा होगा. भाई जहाँ 20 लाख का और होगा वहाँ 10 लाख का ये भी होगा, जो होगा होगा. Not that we will run away or we will become NPA. We will pay back because honesty is also one of the traits for sure. That's a value system.
So we'll take two more questions. One and
Good evening, sir. This is Abhishek Goswami from PGPX. So my question is that there have been recent policy changes wherein funding to NGOs have been constantly under scrutiny. So primarily due to political reasons. So how do you see this as a challenge when on the one hand you are trying, like NGOs and social sectors are, these organizations are trying to bridge the gap which the government is not able to fulfill over these years, and then the government intervening on each and every aspect. So and another question is why has the corporate sector not been an equal contributor up till now, and why is that the government has to resort to this mandated CSR funding? So why was this not in the mind of some of the leading corporates?
so maybe Anshu and then Neeraj.
I think I will get typecast of starting my answer. So I was talking to Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, the father of this act, CSR. So I asked him the same question, Kyun? Why have you brought this? We all are doing. So his simple answer was that, Neeraj, it is not for you. It is not for Tatas. It is not for Birlas. It is for those people who were not doing it, right? So this act, if it has done anything wrong, is that it has given something called 2%. Okay. So in the minds of finance people, it is that if you do 2%, it is done. We have always been doing more than 2%. I am with the company for over 2.5 decades. Every company worth the name had been doing CSR and much more than 2%. Okay. It has increased tremendously. So that's the answer of your second question. The first question is, I was talking to the municipal commissioner here, and he was part of and the mayor, he was part of one of the administrative committee of a community center. And we talked, you should do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And he said, Neeraj, everything accepted. Give me a budget completely without seeing, I will accept that and release fund. However, why? Because they are only in a position to spend about 60-65% of their complete budget. They are not in a position to exhaust that. So they are ready to do that. However, he said, give me any NGO who can even tackle 5% of my population in Ahmedabad. There are no NGOs, my friend. This is, what government is at this moment looking at, and I would not blame them. What government is at this moment looking at, speed and scale. You can disagree with the strategy, but this is what they are looking at. Anybody I talk to, if you are very small, they are not interested. Okay. So funding is not an issue. If I am doing it, I want to plant 2 lakh trees every year around our premises. I have to do it myself because not a single civil society organization can help me to plant more than 5,000 in the areas where I want to do. So building capacity of the civil society organizations as a tool to strengthen CSR's future needs is something that has not been worked upon by any corporate. And from there, the private partnership, as I see emerging in near future for this. So fund to me is not an issue, and government putting up a lot of restrictions on different civil society organizations. They have their reason to do that.
Apart from many other purposes, fine. I always feel that why should every single voluntary organization scale up? That's not the idea. Why do we even expect that voluntary organization will have 1 lakh people, 50,000 people, 10,000 people? No, that's not the idea. The whole idea was of the civil society sector, apart from movements and so many other things. One of the very critical thing with this sector is also filling up the gaps, right? If you have someone who is suffering from cancer and you need palliative care, where do you go? Where do you go with your elderly parents? Who do you go when a disaster happens for the relief material? Right? The whole purpose of the sector is also not to replace governments and replace other institutions. Those organizations need to work. Our role as a sector is to fill up the gaps. So even the expectations of a scale is many times absolutely wrong. Because that institution is started in one part of one district to take care of the local issues. Period. Uska utna hi capacity hai. The remaining job, the hardcore job of that area was basically the municipality jobs or the government jobs. It was not the job of that NGO. Why should I spend my time, money, energy in bringing kids to the school? I will work on the education quality, on bringing some innovative techniques of education. But it is not my role to provide or look after the midday meal. It is the responsibility of some other agency who is being paid where our taxes are going. तो मुझे लगता है कि बहुत बार वॉलंटरी सेक्टर से बहुत यूजलेस किस्म की एक्सपेक्टेशंस हैं. नहीं चाहिए सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन इस बड़े स्केल पर. बिकॉज आवर रोल इज टू फिल अप दोज गैप्स. जो मूवमेंट टाइप की चीजें हैं वो स्केल पे चाहिए, वो एक अलग कहानी है. बट जो डेवलपमेंट टाइप की चीजें हैं उसमें यदि कोई लोकलाइज भी है तो वो अच्छा है. Why should one institution run 50 palliative care center across the country? No. कोई केरला में है, वो वहां 4 चला रहा है, उनको अच्छी तरह से चला रहा है, उतनी फंडिंग ले रहा है, उतना ही काम कर रहा है. That is it. I mean, that's how I see the sector. So there are different layers of the sector. Fine.
Namaste. Can I?
So Sayak this side. So I have a very fundamental question. So being part of this a conscious capitalistic kind of a society, is it really possible to create impact in the social sector? Or is it just kind of a mirage that people from the business society have created? Or do we, if we really want to create a social impact, can we really be part of the mainstream business and still create an impact? Or do we really have to let go of that dreams and follow a different path to create an impact?
Vikram.
I don't know. I'm not the best guy because I haven't done it. So I can't answer it. Maybe these two guys have done it. No, I won't be able to answer.
Why not? When you are saying that it is a mirage, the corporate sector looks at any social issue, means I'll say we look at any social issue in 2 dimensions. And the 2 dimension is a theme and a geography. I write in the beginning said that CSRs are not here to change India, but CSR are here to change geography. You have heard the story of starfish and the same. Okay, it doesn't make a difference to vast sea of starfish which are getting thrown away, but the one which is thrown back to the sea. So what is happening? If you look at specific corporates who are working in a specific geography, technically every project that a corporate takes start turning into a program, and any project that a government takes, because of that not having the geography and timeline thing, it remains a project. So let me give you an example. If a corporate is working in 50-60 villages, 2-3 lakh population, and working on very specific project of improving quality of education, brings it to those 60, 70, 80 schools and start looking at those schools, Because there is a funding guarantee, because the fund is available year on year on year, and we as a business understand that if you have put in 2 years, 3 years money, and if you are withdrawing, you are actually wasting your money. No one else will understand money better than a corporate. So we ensure that we are going year on year on year. And the moment you do it in a defined geography, the transformation happens, which lasts, right? So no corporate would be able to change India, but they would be able to change a small geography where they are working. And I am aware about the Godda experience.
No, and I'll tell you that I see that in all the mines that I visit, because you displace people, right? When you open a mine, वो तो जमीन तो नहीं गई ना, आपने उनको हटा दें वहां से. So they need to be rehabilitated, and a job is not a solution. We need to provide a livelihood. Otherwise, it is a short term, then it's a mirage. So I think I must say that what I have seen in the last 2 years at close quarters, I have not seen in the last, 56 or the earlier years. And companies, मैं तो एक ही के साथ अब काम कर रहा हूँ, they are making outstanding difference because they have a framework in place. And after a point, what I've got to understand is that the projects become self-sustaining. So people quickly realize that this is a value is being created for them. And surprisingly, local community is willing to give back more to it than you and I do in cities. They own it. And then that's when the corporate moves to the next village. So this much I can say with my limited knowledge, that companies where, as Neeraj said, in the local area that they have there and whatever they have chosen, I think they have done a stellar job. It's just that they are not boastful and they're not marketing it. And maybe it's not required. I don't know.
So in my opinion, very simple thing is that I don't find the debates or discussions on either or very practical. Okay. Because if you have problems in volume, you need solutions in volume. You need people who work on those solutions in volume. So I think the most important part is the lens and the approach of and. Instead word we should just remove from our dictionary. Right? ये भी अच्छा है, वो भी अच्छा है. हम लोग बैठ के इंटेलेक्चुअल डिबेट नहीं कर सकते. आपको जो अच्छा लग रहा है आपको कर लीजिए. और ये एक देश ऐसा है जिसमें अभी अगले 50 साल तक आप जो भी आइडिया पे काम कर रहे हैं उसको स्केल करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी है. Millions is a very small number and you can achieve millions in that for anything because there is so much of opportunity on everything. मतलब तो इसलिए और सबसे बड़ा बात यह है कि आप कैसे भी करिए, आप उसको बिजनेस में करिए, आप सोशल में करिए, आप गवर्नमेंट में करिए. व्हाट मैटर्स एट द बेस ऑफ इट इज द इंटेंशन. सिंपल. If the intention is pure, you do something good. If the intention is not pure, you exactly create what you are talking about. वो कोई भी सेक्टर हो, वो कोई भी लोग हो, that way. क्योंकि ये तो सब आपके मतलब एक तरीके से फ्रेमवर्क्स है ना. At the end of the day, तो human is trying to work for human. बाकी तो सब फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं. What matters is ultimately intention.
Yeah. So I think
I have a question.
So, okay, last question, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, good evening, sir. I'm Frastus team. So, my question is regarding the CSR activity of Arvind Mills. So, what are the steps as a company is taking for the upliftment of weavers, especially in the handloom sector?
As CSR activity, we are not doing anything for the handloom sector. However, we have a very different organic cotton initiative, which is part of the business, where we are actually making hand woven denim. But that's not part of the CSR. That's related to an organic cotton initiative.
I've seen in a village in Kutch where women were always for centuries making very good embroidered stuff. I think what the corporate did by coming in helped them market it as gift souvenirs and to many companies, that sell to tourists. So I think the corporate can become a channel, and that's how value got created.
For all of you, I think I want to bring disruption in this entire employment creation thing also. I think now this is high time that the village starts producing for villages first. And then start supplying the surplus to the cities, because there is also 70% customer sitting there. So it's a very sad state when we go for whole lot of these, very fancy kind of products creation, which happens in the villages. And you see that in the last so many decades, the condition is not improved that way, right? Because they are making a carpet of 50,000 rupees, or they are making a carpet of 2,000 rupees. Their daily wages is same. That's how the things are not changing. So we are strongly promoting that now the villages need to produce products which can be consumed locally. And then just a part of it need to go out so that the additional money comes in. And that disruption needs to happen. And with your strategic mind and thinking and all, you can actually become a part of that journey or that thinking process in a big way. But that's how the things will start changing in the villages. And I'm just going back to this COVID period, because for me, there is nothing like post-COVID. It might be for me and you because our jobs were intact. For the larger world, it is with COVID, because COVID was not just a health crisis, right? Because of COVID, a lot of people lost jobs and all kind of things happened. Do remember that this is a golden chance for all of us to work as much as possible in the villages so that the forced migration does not happen. I am also migrated from Dehradun, but my migration was by choice. All those people who were forced to walk back, this is the proof that it was a forced migration. That needs to stop. So we all have an opportunity now to go back and work as much as possible for the village economy. You also have additional talent in the villages, which is gone from the cities now.
So I will just completely agree with Anshu when he says that the villagers will have to help their own village. The two very quick little examples, and even that is true for all the development sector. We think that we are coming from outside and we will change the whole society. It doesn't happen that way. We have a very small program of skilling tribal girls, employing them in our factory, putting them in a dormitory. So it's a residential factory. It is, of course, over and above 2%. We are doing it for business. Over 4 years, all these girls in the dormitory, 8 hours they work, 8 hours, 10 hours is their free times, personal time. But they have 4 to 6 hours, and we have linked them to Baba Saheb Ambedkar University to do graduation. तो सुबह में कपड़े सिलते हैं, रात को पढ़ते हैं, and we had 150 graduates from that hostel, and few of them got the government job. Few started something of their own. Few started setting up a small dormitory. Now what has happened, that area wise we are identifying people that when you go back, we are setting up self-help groups in their villages. So what you have learned over there, you now start developing your own area. When 2007, I started this education program, Mr. Lalbhai asked me, oh, very good, 8 to 12 years of handholding, but teacher kahan se laoge? I didn't have I said ho jayega, but what I knew is that if I can run it for 10 to 12 years, all my students will become my teacher. And this is what has happened. So all our students from slums have become our teachers. So I have solved that problem. So people will have to solve their own problem, and we are the persons who are managers basically to create everything together.
Okay, so I think we'll have to stop. Thank you very much. I think all three, you have spoken from heart, which I think is a great thing, and we are all enriched by your thoughts, observations, experiences. And Piyush can do the
Hello, my name is Piyush, and as some of you would know that I head the Ashank Desai Centre for Leadership and Organization Development. Now, one of the things that I wanted to share, and I'm sorry that he has left, the person who asked this question. So I have a unique background. I have straddled some of these worlds. I was young like you, some about 25, 30 years ago, and sitting like this only doing my MBA. And I finished and I started, I had the typical notions of having that name, fame, and money on my side. So the next 25 years, I slogged it out. And I would say God was kind and I was fortunate to get some of these opportunities to man the C-suite. Now, the biggest regret that I had after when I came out of the corporate sector was that I never used those opportunities of those positions of authority, of influence, and the opportunities that it offered to ever move beyond the brief, right? And it is not as if those opportunities did not exist. So when Anshu and various others are saying that it is a matter of either botheration or passion or intent, all of this is truth. I'm reminded of the story of Aristotle when he was taking a stroll around a beach and he was accompanied by this friend, and there was this heap of fish that had been kind of swarmed over on the beach shore, and all of these were dying, some thousands of them. And Aristotle took a moment and he bent down and he picked up this one little fish and sent it out in the water. And he said, what difference does it make? And he picked up another one and sent it in the water. And he said, it makes a difference to that one. Right. So very, very important that wherever we are in our lives, in our careers, in our opportunities, in our life cycle stage, it doesn't have to happen today. The future of work is talking of a situation. Vikram told us that it is about 50 odd years that you guys would possibly have. We did not have the luxury to have this possibility of not doing all our education in one chunk, all our career one in one chunk. I consider myself fortunate that today I'm in a position where when I had that regret, I thought when and if I do get an opportunity to have an executive position, what I am going to be doing is that I'm going to be making a conscious effort to now use my position of authority and power, right, to actually make an impact. So we were discussing a while back, we did not have a blueprint for the center, right? And in the beginning, when Vishal and I and the executive committee sat down, we decided that one of the things that we would consciously try and do is to move beyond research, beyond community building, beyond content, beyond some of these stakeholder engagement exercises that we do, to actually move into the space of creating leadership experimentation platform and impact policy in practice both. And that is where the center has successfully been able to create some little case studies as far as the Sikkim government initiative and some of the other 5 state government initiatives which are right now in the making are concerned. So very important, and I know that I'm standing between calling it a day. You guys have a tough schedule tomorrow. So very quickly, on behalf of the Ashank Desai Centre for Leadership and Organization Development, to the esteemed panelists, thank you very much. You guys rocked, and thank you also for enabling us to have that view which possibly will generate something in perhaps some of us to make that change, make that leap. And very well done, Vishal. Thank you for that great moderation. Ek mere ko bhi sher sunana hai, Anshu, and I'll try my best. So I thought it started on that note. So tundaiye bade mukhatib se na dar tu hai ekab. This is basically to the young leaders out there, and I'm told that some of us may also be social entrepreneurs. I don't know if you guys have, some of you have been able to make it from CIIE. So tundaiye bade mukhatib se na dar tu hai ekab, and ekab is what you young leaders are all about, which is eagles. And this is high level Urdu, and the next one is easier. So tundaiye bade mukhatib se na dar tu hai ekab, ye to chalti hai tujhe upar uthane ke liye. So in this world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity that we're talking about, in fact, the wind that blows against you only helps you rise higher, right? And that is the note on which I would like to sign. Thank you.